Welcome to the Professional Speakers Association of the Netherlands event series. In this series, we introduce you to various speakers from around the world with interesting topics that will be relevant to you as a professional speaker. In this video, Melonie, Dodaro, talks to us about LinkedIn profiles and how you as a speaker can use the tips and tricks that she provides to her customers to become a better found and better regarded professional speaker online.
Well, thank you for that introduction and welcome everyone. It's great to be with you today on this virtual PSA Holland event. As we've been talking about, we must all adapt. I've got a lot to cover with you today and not a lot of time to do it. But what I'm going to share with you can absolutely be applied and used everywhere, not just your LinkedIn presence. It can be applied to the messages that you send, to your website, to your content, all of it. Because telling your story and standing out, and most importantly, speaking directly to your target market, really requires a process if you want any of your messages to truly resonate with the people and the businesses that you want to attract. Now, for those of you that don't know me, you did just get a quick little introduction, but just give me 1 minute to tell you a little bit about who I am, and then we'll just dive right into the content. So for the last decade, I've trained companies all across the globe on how to leverage LinkedIn to attract high quality clients. I've worked with Fortune 500, as well as smaller but progressive companies and even individuals like yourselves. As it was mentioned, I've written multiple #1 best-selling books on the topic of LinkedIn. I even have a new book that's been adopted by universities across Europe and North America. Now, as was mentioned, I live here in Holland. And you can clearly tell I don't have any kind of Dutch accent. I'm still struggling to learn Dutch. It's been almost 2 years now. But I feel really blessed to be able to have a business that allows me to live anywhere in the world. And I definitely chose this beautiful country to live in. So I've taught more than 2,700 individuals, companies, and even governments on how to use LinkedIn and social selling. In fact, I've been training organizations on social selling long before the term was even coined. That's enough about me. Let's dive into the content that I have prepared for you today. And I think it's especially important at this time, which is really, how to tell your story in a unique way, how to really stand out. And as I mentioned, we got somebody playing music. Is that my introduction? And as I mentioned, this can be used anywhere as well as LinkedIn, of course. So I want to start by saying, if you confuse them, you lose them. I can't tell you how many companies I've been interested in, at first glance, maybe interested in their services, and they could not clearly explain to me what it was they were going to do. So I think this is really, really important because it's really easy for us to get emotionally involved in our own message and it not be clear to the people that it needs to be. So write this down, post it by your computer, and refer to it often, because the simpler and more predictable that your communication is, the easier it will be for your ideal client's brain to process it. And the best way to do this is by telling a story, because it's a formula that really puts everything into a neat and tidy order. Now, as speakers, I'm sure that most of you have really great storytelling abilities, but the key is to make those stories drive people to action, the action of working with you. Your clients are going to process information that's going to either be designed to help them survive or thrive. And Andy was talking a lot about this. If they can't see a benefit to them right now, in many cases, it's making more money, but in some cases, it's also saving money. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because if your LinkedIn profile and your marketing messages don't inform your ideal clients how you can meet one of their basic needs, regardless of whether it's at the top or the bottom of the needs chart, their brains are wired to ignore it. They're not going to pay attention. So what you write in your LinkedIn profile and any one-to-one messages, or even the content you share, it absolutely must eliminate confusion and speak directly to your ideal client's deeper survival needs. Now, most people or businesses fail to focus on the aspects of their products or services that will actually help people survive or thrive. The story of your service needs to be positioned in a way that shows how you can help your ideal clients to survive or thrive in their business or their personal lives, depending on what it is you offer. Now, if the information that you share anywhere, and of course within your LinkedIn profile, is complicated or confusing, it acts against the brain's primary job to help us survive or thrive. If your messaging causes your ideal clients to have any kind of confusion, or they have to work too hard in an effort to understand what it is that you do or how you can help them, you'll have lost them. The brain ignores anything and everything that confuses it. Now, a story is an easy way to share information with your ideal clients in a way that their brain can process, that can easily process. A story can help your ideal clients identify their pain points, so show that you understand the problems that they're facing, their desired outcome, and achieve that outcome. Now, we start story building by identifying the character of the story. And this is always the hero of the story. Now, who is the hero of your brand story? It's probably not who you expect it to be. The hero is your ideal clients. It's your ideal clients who need to be the hero of the story, not you, not your business, and not your service. Your ideal client's story needs to become the story that you share about your business if you really want them to care and if you want them to pay attention. Everything they think, everything they read or watch goes through their WIIFM filter. Do you guys know what that is? What's in it for me? If they can't see what's in it for them, they're not going to pay attention. And so if you're selling services to companies, even large ones, it's not the industry, the company, or the organization that you need to connect to and build a relationship with, but rather the individuals who make the decisions in that business. It's those individuals who must be the hero of your story. So let me give you an example. I've got a couple of key services that I offer. So I'm going to use this first one, which is my social selling training that I deliver to B2B companies. So any B2B company that has a sales team, I can go in and provide this training. But the hero of the story is not the company. The hero of the story is the sales leaders, because they're the decision makers that are hiring me. Their most important need is to increase the sales performance of their team. It's the sales leaders that are judged on the overall sales results. Now identify that single desire for your ideal clients. And next, you want to tie that desire into their basic need. I already talked about how the brains are designed to help us thrive or survive. So tie it into that need. Let me give you one more example. Now, although I work mostly with companies, I still sometimes work with individuals who are interested in using LinkedIn for lead generation. The hero for the story in this case is professional service providers. They're typically coaches, consultants, speakers, and marketers. Their most important need is that I provide a solution that provides them with a system to generate new clients and increase revenue. So again, you want to determine that single desire for your ideal clients, tying it into that basic need. Now, in order to get and maintain your ideal client's attention, you need to tie your message to that survival need. So let me share with you 4 of the ones that I use for my business and services, and quite likely they'll apply to most of you. The first one is conserving financial resources. And this is like not wasting money on ineffective lead generation or even marketing strategies. The next one's conserving time. Nobody wants their time wasted on tactics that don't produce results. The next survival need is gaining status. This is increasing your authority, your credibility, and building trust with your target market. And people always prefer to work with experts. And the last one is what Andy spoke a lot about, which was accumulating resources, making more money. Most of us are going to have that as a survival need, our clients are going to have that as a survival need, and that's going to be the one that we're going to be tapping into most. So let me just cover these in just a quick short description so that you're clear on what they are. You're fulfilling conserving financial resources need if what you offer in some way will help them save money. Money is strongly tied to our physical security and well-being, and it's a powerful motivator. It's not just about making money. A lot of times it's about saving money. Conserving time, you fulfill this need if your offer is going to help them save time. So if they have more time to do the things that are important to them, like spend more time with their family or recreational activities. You'll fulfill the gaining status need if you're offering in some way a way to help them improve how they're being perceived by others. Now, this is an important survival aspect because it can influence everything from their ability to get a mate, as an example, to get a promotion at work, or to land more clients for their business. And the last one that I mentioned was the accumulating resources. This need is really relevant if you have an offer that in some way is going to help them accumulate more resources, most notably if you can help them make more money. But in addition to making money, the resources could also include increased productivity, better employees, more referrals, assets, or anything else that's a resource that they value. The next step is to do a deep dive into your client's problem. By taking the time to identify their problem, we help them see us as someone who understands them. So simply put, every story needs a villain. Let's think of any kind of movie that we watch. We've got a hero and we've got a villain. By making your ideal client's problem the villain of the story, you position your offer as a weapon that they can use to defeat the villain. Now, perhaps you're thinking that a villain needs to be a person. It absolutely does not have to be in person. In fact, it rarely will be, but it should have personified traits. So let me explain that a little bit more. There are 4 key traits that a villain, aka your ideal client's problems, should have. First, the villain should be the source of the problem. So for example, frustration is not the villain. It's what the villain makes your ideal clients feel. Money problems are an example of the villain. Second, the villain should be relatable. When people hear you talk about this villain, they should immediately recognize it as something they dislike. Third, the villain should be singular. One villain's enough. You don't want to have too many or it's going to create lack of clarity. And as a reminder, if you confuse them, you lose them. And the fourth trait is that the villain should be real. So you don't want to be a fear monger. There's so much stuff going on in the media and so much fear and panic. We don't need to exaggerate or make up any fictitious villains. There are plenty of real villains that already exist. So now if you've got a problem that you've identified these traits with, you have the villain of your story. Now, once you've reached this step, you need to dive deeper into the problem. And there are 3 levels to every problem. There's the external problem, the internal problem, and the philosophical problem. And I'm going to explain these more in a moment. So in my business, Top Dog Social Media, I've identified that my clients have wasted time and they've wasted money on marketing with little to no increase in customers or revenue. My service solves this problem and is tied to their survival need of accumulating resources. It also has the 4 traits of a villain. Now, if I was like most people, I would focus my marketing efforts on how I can help people get better results with LinkedIn. That's logical. But it's a mistake to only sell solutions to external problems. When people are most motivated to invest in a solution, it solves their internal problems. So while it may make sense to focus on helping people get results with LinkedIn, this is only the external problem. If you can identify their internal frustration to an external problem, if you can put it into words and offer to resolve it along with the original external problem, you're going to connect to your ideal clients because you've positioned yourself more deeply into their narrative. So let me explain. When clients come to me, they're often extremely frustrated. They've probably invested time and money, and they're just not getting results that they hoped for, which is absolutely vital to their growth and potentially to the survival of their business. It's essential that I'm able to address both that external problem that my clients expect results for the time and the money that they invest, and the internal problem of the frustration that they're feeling. As well as the external and internal problems, you also need to examine and address the philosophical ones that they're experiencing. Now, this may sound complicated, but it really isn't. The philosophical problem is often tied to their belief that things should be just and fair. And I'm not sure, I've heard a lot of different accents on the call. I'm not sure if everybody is here in Holland, but we live in a country where we very much believe this, don't we? But things aren't always just and fair in business. So the philosophical problem your ideal clients feel usually revolves around them thinking that something ought to be or it shouldn't be a certain way, or that they deserve a different outcome. Think of examples like, bad people shouldn't be allowed to win, or people ought to be treated fairly, or even hardworking people deserve a vacation. With all of the people out there that are there's so many self-appointed LinkedIn experts these days, and so many lead generation companies popping up. 96% of them have no clue what they're doing. So many of the clients that come to me, they're frustrated when they get to me because they've probably paid one of these so-called experts in the past. And they feel that they ought to be able to trust the self-proclaimed expert that they worked with, and yet they were completely disappointed. This taps into the larger story of fairness. Why should my ideal clients have to pay for a service that's costing them money instead of making them money? That's just not right. It's not fair, and it's not just. So put together, it might look like this. The villain is money and time. Money and time wasted on marketing and social media with little to no increase in customers or revenue. The external problem they're thinking is, I expect results for the time and money I invest. The internal problem is, I'm frustrated that I'm not getting enough results in return for the money and time I've invested. And their philosophical problem is, I ought to be able to trust the experts that I'm paying to produce a result for my business. Understanding and addressing the 3 levels of problems your ideal clients face is going to help you build a brand promise that will connect with them on a primitive level, at their deepest point of need. By writing about the problems on all 3 levels that your ideal clients face, you deepen their interest in everything you offer. So this ties right back into what Andy was talking about. Once you've done this, you can position your services right within your LinkedIn profile or anywhere else as the solution, the resolution to their external, internal, and philosophical problems. You can basically frame your solution as the action that you need to take to close that story. Now, the hero of the story facing the villain, most times your ideal clients are going to be looking for a guide. So they can't do it on their own. If they could, they already would have. Right? Like if heroes could solve their own problems, they wouldn't have gotten into trouble in the first place. Now, the truth is nearly every human being is looking for a guide or multiple guides to help them win the day. When you position yourself as the hero, you unknowingly compete with your ideal client for that hero role. If you do this in your messaging or in your LinkedIn profile or really anywhere else, it won't come as a surprise that they ignore you or simply pass you. So how do you prevent that from happening? The key is to become the guide, not the hero. Shift your focus from your own success to that of your clients. Make their success your first and top priority. This is the role of the guide. Remember that the guide is not the hero. It's the one with the most authority. It's you as the guide who's the expert. But I'm sorry, I was just seeing something pop up on the screen, and I just want to make sure all is good here.
Looks like it.
Okay, good. I knew you said you were going to send me a message if there was anything. So
no.
Blinking
light. That woman thing here, the guide.
Okay, good stuff. Good. So in order to be seen as the guide, you need to show empathy while conveying authority. After all, you are the authority on your topic, are you not? So when becoming their guide, it's important that you understand that when you empathize with your ideal client, you create a bond of trust. People trust people in businesses who understand them. So once you've identified the villain, as well as the external, internal, and philosophical problems, you show your ideal clients that you understand their feelings and that you'd like to help solve their problem. And you have to actually tell them. They won't know that you understand how they feel or that you care about their success until you tell them. So to show them that you care, you can use empathy statements like, I understand how it feels when. Nobody should have to experience X, whatever X is. Like you, I'm frustrated by. This allows them to understand that you understand them and that you care. Another key way to build trust is by providing commonality. Commonality is very powerful in marketing. People connect with people that they have something in common with. When your ideal clients realize that you have something in common with them, they fill in the unknowns with a level of trust. As an example, for the clients that I work with that have gone to a specific university, I always say to them, start your outreach to the people that went to the same university. It's an immediate connection. So any kind of commonality is going to be very, very powerful. So the key is to provide the right commonality. So these can be shared ideals, shared preferences, shared experiences, and even shared connections. But before the hero will be able to trust you as their guide, they must see you as an authority on your topic and that you're able to competently help them solve their problem. Now, when I look at most people's profiles, including speakers, they in no way are conveying that they're an authority. And you have to wonder how many lost opportunities are coming from that alone. I've spoken with many conference planners who say the LinkedIn profile is the first thing that they look at when they're deciding on speakers. So if yours isn't making an impression, a positive impression, it's not going to serve you well. You don't need to be perfect, but you do have to have enough experience and showcase enough experience to help your heroes win the day. So how do you express your authority without sounding like you know it all or you're bragging? There's many different elements within your profile that allow you to build your authority, credibility, and enhance social proof, such as recommendations, testimonials, results you've achieved, either personally or for clients. High-profile clients. So if you've worked with high-profile clients, that establishes credibility very quickly. Awards and accolades, accomplishments, length of experience. I'm working with a brand new client right now, and they're actually a German company. I'm training their sales team, and they've been in business since 1889. That's me, like every single company that I've ever worked with that's over 100 years old, and maybe that impresses me because I'm Canadian and nothing's more than 100 years old. But, most businesses do not survive that long. If you look at the year 2000, and you look at the 100 top businesses that existed 100 years earlier, 1900, only 16 of them were left in the year 2000. And that is a huge accomplishment, as is your length of experience. If you've been doing this for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, talk about that experience. Education, how-to articles, case studies, maybe you have some portfolios and videos. These are all ways that you can enhance your authority, both on LinkedIn and some of these outside of LinkedIn as well. So it's not just enough to become the guide. Just because they trust you, to possibly be their guide doesn't mean that they're going to make the leap of faith to invest in what you offer, right? Andy talked about this. So in order to make a purchase, you need to lay out a simple plan of action that your ideal clients can take. As soon as you become their guide, they're already in a relationship with you, but making that leap to a purchase isn't a casual relationship. It's a commitment. And commitments are risky because as soon as they make a commitment, they have something to lose. And many are not ready to take that risk. So by providing a plan, you remove a lot of that perceived risk. and you really increase their comfort level in doing business with you. So creating new packages and outlining what they look like. The reason for this is because a plan creates clarity, and people are naturally inclined to move towards clarity. The opposite is also true. Not having a plan is a guaranteed way to confuse your ideal clients. And again, if you confuse them, you lose them. So when an interested prospect is reading your LinkedIn profile, you want to tell them what they should do next. And if you don't guide them at this point, they're going to experience confusion and then use that confusion as a reason not to contact you. And simply telling people to buy your products or services absolutely does not work on LinkedIn. Now, because many of you may be wondering, or many of them might be wondering how your solution works. It needs to be laid out so that it's easy and not difficult to acquire and implement your solution. They want to plan, they want to see what those steps are. So there's some effective things that you can do when kind of putting together a plan. It can take many different shapes or forms, but an effective plan does two things. It clarifies how someone can do business with you, and it removes the sense of risk that your ideal clients feel when they're thinking about making an investment in your solution. Now, most people are visual, so they like to see the steps involved, and this would be called a process plan. Now, a process plan, in most cases, is going to be designed to alleviate confusion. The process plan will literally describe the steps that your ideal client needs to take in order to purchase your solution, to use or implement the solution after they buy it, or a mixture of both. And right now, you're probably trying to create new offerings and unclear on what they might look like. So documenting them and kind of outlining it so that you've got that visual is going to be really important, as well as so that you can clearly convey that. So now, if you sell a complicated solution, using a pre-purchase process plan really helps remove any confusion from the process. It lets them know exactly what the next steps are. So for example, I've got an online course, and so for my pre-purchase process plan, I just have some very simple steps. It's sign up for the masterclass. In this case, it's a free webinar. Watch the masterclass, buy the course. Like, these are the steps that I'm going to take them through. A post-purchase process plan is best used when your ideal clients might have problems imagining how they use your product or service after they bought it. So it's going to lay out the steps or phases needed after they make a purchase. So an example of this for my online course might look like this. Watch the video lessons, do the exercises, attend the live coaching sessions, integrate what you learn, and then you can combine a pre and post purchase plan where I could just literally break down both of those steps and say, watch the webinar, buy the course, watch the video lessons, do the exercises, attend the live coaching sessions, integrate what you learn. Here's another example, and this particular example really helped me increase my sales for this particular service. This particular service is called LinkedIn Domination. And I used to verbally explain it to people, but the verbal explanation of it was really hard for them to understand. And then afterwards, they'd ask me questions and they'd be like, oh, well, how is this going to work? And so I literally just created a visual process plan of it. So if I'm having a call now with a prospect over Zoom, it's just easy for me to pop this visual up and take them through exactly what the service entails. So I'll say, step one, we're going to have a discovery call. I'm going to get all the information I need about you, and then I'm going to create a rockstar profile for you. Once I've done that, you'll review the draft. Once you're 100% happy, we'll get that live on your LinkedIn profile. The next step is we're going to have a lead generation messaging discovery call. This is where I'm going to get all the information I need to understand who your ideal clients are, their hopes, their goals, their problems, and then I'm going to craft a message sequence for you to use. And then the next step, I'm going to create a lead generation playbook for you, and I'm going to show you exactly how to implement this. This is going to be done by webinar. It's going to be recorded. You can turn this over to an assistant if you don't want to do any of the implementation yourself, but you're going to know exactly what you need to do. And oh, and by the way, as a bonus, I'm also throwing in a brand new course that I created called the Authority Builder. So if you want to start creating content and getting more visibility and building your authority online, everything that you need to know is in that. And so now I just take them through that, and it is very, very clear. They know exactly what they're getting. There's no miscommunication. Now for complex or high ticket sales, you might need a different or an additional plan to really give your clients the confidence that they need to buy. Now I require this when I'm working with companies for my social selling training. Instead, I have a multi-step, in-depth visual proposal that I take them through. So once you create your process or agreement plan, give them a name. It's going to increase the perceived value of your offering. Now, these names can be specific, which I recommend, or they can be general. So as an example, some of the systems I have are the LinkedIn Brand Builder, the LinkedIn Lead Builder, the Authority Builder, LinkedIn Domination. And then there's some more generic ones that you can use, like if you want to give people, if you want to take away risk, you know, our customer satisfaction agreement or our quality guarantee. These are all things that you can talk about, and the more structured you are in terms of delivering what you say right in your LinkedIn profile, and like I said, anywhere else, is going to increase trust and response. Now, even with a motivating villain, a helpful guide, and a clear plan, your heroes are going to be excited, but they're not necessarily inclined to take action yet or move to the next step unless they're very specifically called to take action. Now, people need to be challenged by outside forces often to take action. So without a clear call to action located in your LinkedIn profile or your website or everywhere else that you're doing any kind of marketing, people will not know what to do next and will likely do nothing at all. So keep in mind that your ideal clients, they're bombarded with thousands of commercial messages a day. So unless you're bold in your call to action, you're going to be ignored. Really soft, passive calls to action will be overlooked. So don't ever make the assumption as well that, you know, your ideal clients can read your mind. People just assume, oh, well, that's on my website. If it's not super obvious and clear to them, they're not going to do anything. And if you don't invite, your ideal clients to take a journey with you, they won't. So that being said, we don't want to constantly be beating them over the head with too many direct calls to action. But in most cases, businesses and people don't use nearly enough, and it results in inaction of their ideal clients. So when you sell passively, you're actually communicating a lack of belief in what you offer. When you don't ask people to take action, your ideal clients actually sense weakness. Your hero doesn't want a guide filled with doubt and in need of affirmation. They want a confident guide who will show them the way to solve their problem and achieve what they desire. So if you can change your ideal client story for the better, then shouldn't you be bold enough about inviting them to do business with you? I know the answer is yes, right? Everybody's going to nod for that one. So there's a couple of different kinds of calls to action that you can use in your marketing. So this is related to LinkedIn as well as other channels. The first is a direct call to action. A direct call to action is how you invite people to either purchase your solution, or in the case of a LinkedIn profile, it might be just to contact you. Buy now, order now. Those are popular examples of direct calls to action, but they're not the ones that you'd include in your LinkedIn profile. Direct calls to action that you might use in your LinkedIn profile could be email me at, call me at, message me. If you don't tell people what to do, they're not going to do anything at all. The second type of call to action is a transitional call to action. So a transitional call to action can absolutely be included in your LinkedIn profile to give people a taste of who you are and how you help them. Andy was talking about using videos. Videos are a fantastic way to get people to know a little bit more about how you can help them and get to know you. Many of the people that you deal with are not going to be ready to buy from you the moment they come across you. So a transitional call to action is an effective way to establish your authority and stay top of mind for when they are ready to buy. Now, the appeal of these calls to action is they contain less risk, and they usually offer something for free. So examples that you might want to include in your LinkedIn profile are, get this mini course, or watch this video or webinar, or download this PDF. It could be a checklist, a report, a white paper, a case study. And in some cases, it's in exchange for their name or email address. Depends on how you're using this. For marketing in general, it's important to include calls to action direct ones as well as transitional ones. And for your LinkedIn profile, you'll definitely want to include it within a couple of sections of your profile, and I'll show you where to do that shortly. Now, every human being is trying to avoid failure, and that brings us to the next goal, which is you're guiding your hero to avoid failure. But first, you need to point out what's at stake for them. You know, if nothing can be gained or lost, they won't be invested and they won't care. Now, a story lives and dies based on the question of, will this hero succeed or fail? That's how we get so gripped into a movie, right? We're wanting to know what's going to happen next. Are they going to fail or are they going to succeed? Your hero only has two motivations. It's either to escape something bad or to experience something good. Now, it's important to know that the desire to avoid pain is what motivates us to seek a resolution to our problems. This is why you need to show your ideal clients the cost of not doing business with you. If you don't warn your ideal clients about what can happen if they don't invest in your solution, they're going to ultimately move on to somebody that does. Now, emphasizing potential loss is more than just good storytelling. It's good behavior economics. Studies have proven that people are more likely to be dissatisfied with loss than they are to be satisfied with gain. Simply put, people hate losing more than they like winning. It's kind of crazy, eh? So what this means for you is that your ideal client's desire to avoid loss is a greater motivator for them than to buy your solution for the gains that they might receive from it. Now, with this in mind, you want to take a moment and ask yourself, what are the negative consequences that I can help my ideal clients avoid? And what is the cost of not doing business with me? Make a list of these consequences and pick up the most important 3. Write them down, make them short and concise and in bullet format. So let me show you what mine look like. You know, failure looks like wasted time and marketing dollars, not enough clients, and not growing their business. You know, word of caution, when you try to communicate, you know, from that failure to act, you must be careful about not having too many warnings about imminent doom. We're seeing way too much of this right now. So that can turn people off and increase high levels of fear, which also results in inaction. So if people are too afraid, they're not going to act. So just have a few, 3 tops consequences that will come from not taking any kind of action and investing in your solution. Once your hero understands what's at stake, you also need to remind them of what they have to gain from success. This is what they want, a happy ending to their story, and the ending must be specific and clear. Don't make the mistake of offering any kind of fuzzy or blurred vision of the future. Nobody gets excited about a blurred vision. In a good story, the resolution is clearly defined so that the hero knows exactly what to hope for. They're not having to think about anything. So you as the guide need to paint a picture of what success will look like for them. They need to be able to envision it and believe in it. But you must say it clearly, because if you're not, it will create confusion. So tell them what their lives will look like or their businesses will look like after they buy your solution. Create a list of resolutions that your customers, of your customers' problems by answering these questions. So what does life look like externally once their problem is solved? These are important things to include in everything, in your LinkedIn profile, in any messages you send, in your website, anywhere. How is the resolution going to make them feel? And consider why the resolution to their problem has made the world a more just and fair place for them to live in. So this is the internal, external, and philosophical problems that we spoke about earlier. So for my clients, I define success as more clients and revenue and a better use of their time so that they're getting noticed and standing out. The external success that I provide is increased revenue and spending their time on the highest leveraging lead generation activities. The internal success I offer my clients is they're relieved to see that they're finally getting noticed and that they're attracting more clients. And their philosophical success is that they can say to themselves, I actually found an expert. I found somebody who delivers on what they promised. This makes them feel secure, and it makes them feel like they're living in a just world. It gives them that sense of justice. So your solution and story must create a path to transformation. Heroes are designed to transform. You know, feelings of self-doubt are universal, and as is the desire to become more competent and confident. So your story must show your ideal clients how they can transform from where they are to where they want to be. Now, the transformation for my clients might look like this: from worried and wasting time and money to relieved and making money. This is really simple. Like, notice how few words are being used here, because it's just hitting on those core transformations that they're looking for. Now, the last thing that you could pull from this process, and it will be incredibly powerful to add it to your LinkedIn profile, is basically like a one-liner. It's a single statement that clearly describes what you do. Some people will even use this as their LinkedIn headline. It should be clear and concise, and it needs to tell people what you do in a way that creates clarity and avoids confusion. So to create your one-liner, you want to include these elements: the character, the problem, the plan, and the success. And with this, and with each of these, you're going to want to answer, you know, who is your ideal client? You know, they need to be able to say, they need to be able to identify, that's me, when they read your statement. What is their problem? When they read it, they need to think, yeah, I actually struggle with that too, or that sounds just like me. What is your plan to help them? So it's not a full in-depth plan. It just needs to be a highlight that you know what you're talking about, and that you've got a methodology or a framework or a process that's going to help them. And what will their life look like after hiring you? This is your one-liner. This is that one statement. This is something, again, that you can use right in your LinkedIn profile. So here's an example of mine. For when I'm targeting professional service providers, the character is them, of course. The problem is that they've wasted time and money on marketing that's not getting results. The plan is to focus on the specific things that produce the highest ROI on their time and marketing budget. Quite often when I'm working with a client, I tell them to cut out 80% of the things that they're doing because they're not producing results, and take that 20% and spend exponential more time doing those specific things. And then the one-liner is, I help professional service providers attract clients on demand with class, credibility, and confidence. Speaks to exactly who I'm targeting and what they want. And somewhat of a plan. You can't go for a full plan in a single sentence, but you can get close with conveying the message. Now, I basically used a version of this right on my homepage, like the proven solution to creating clients on demand. So, and then a subheader on that. So, you can use this anywhere at all. Now, obviously, some things tend to get overlooked in a LinkedIn profile, and it's really important that you make sure that your profile looks like you're a speaker. So you want to have a cover photo showing you in action speaking. And as well, your headline should let people know what you do. You can use that statement that I just covered here. I don't use it simply because I have 3 very different target markets, and it's absolutely impossible for me to speak to all 3 in one statement. And if I tried, I wouldn't attract any of them at all. Now, the other part of your profile that's super important is your about section. This is where you can highlight your experience and your expertise, and you can start to take all the stuff that we've talked about in this session and really dial it in there. It's where you can tell a story, and it's where you can speak directly to your target market, their problems, their desires, their fears, their successes, and your solutions. Now, a few best practices for your about section is it's really important to write it in first person, so not in the third person. So I don't say Melonie Dodaro is blah, blah, blah. I say with 20 years of experience owning, running, and building businesses from scratch, I've always had my finger on the pulse of all things sales, marketing, and operations. Remember, you're just speaking to one person at a time with your profile. Now, even though it's a business site, LinkedIn's still a social network, so don't forget to be social. Next one is highlight your expertise and your experience. And then share a story about you, a story about, how you ended up doing what you're doing. Maybe it's your why story, or maybe it's a story about, exponential results that you help your clients get. And then move right into, who are those ideal clients? Speak directly to them. Identify them so that they know that they're in the right place. Speak directly to their problems, and then position your solution. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see, I work directly, I have, where I'm focusing on my B2B company section, I say I work directly with leaders in sales, marketing, and sales enablement who want to ensure that their sales team have the skills to compete and excel in the digital sales landscape. And then lastly, if someone's landed on your profile, what should they do next? As an example, I end my About section with, if you're interested in learning more about how I can help you elevate your brand, build authority, and attract more high quality leads and clients, email me at. This is your direct call to action, letting them know exactly what to do. In your experience section, you can share exactly how you help your clients and with what services. If you've got multiple services like I do, or multiple target markets, you can create subsections. So for example, I've got one that speaks directly to the sales leaders, describing my social selling training. The second is my LinkedIn domination service, and that's for B2B individuals. The third one speaks to government organizations, which is another one of my target markets. And then I have a fourth one here where I just offer a free masterclass. This is a 60-minute free webinar, and it's suited for the DIY, so the do-it-yourselfers, where I can best serve them through my online courses. Now, one last thing, you have a speaker section on, I'm sorry, you don't have a speaker section. You can create a speaker section. This is mine. I've literally created a separate experience section dedicated just to speaking. And here, you'll notice at the very top, I've put an arrow. I use specific keywords I want to be found for. LinkedIn speaker, social selling speaker, sales navigator speaker. These are very specific. Now notice I don't use keynote speaker. There's a reason for that, because I'm gonna get lost in a sea of hundreds of thousands of others. I wanna be found for my expertise, not when somebody's looking for a motivational keynote speaker or some other unrelated topic. I also provide a short description of my talk, and then I include some client testimonials at the bottom, and then I end off with my call to action saying, contact me for availability. I'm just looking at the time here, and it looks like I'm almost up. I'm sorry, I've got a couple more slides. So sorry. Okay, so that's a lot. One of the things that we had talked about that I was going to share today, I'll just do this quickly and I'll do a real quick overview. Most people don't get any results on LinkedIn because they collect connections, and they send connections, they receive them, and they don't do anything. LinkedIn is a gold mine of opportunity for you, but you need to use it effectively. So step one is finding those prospects. LinkedIn's filled with decision makers that could hire you. Find them through advanced search. Step two is send them a connection request by personalizing it. Step three is, this is where most people stop. They connect and never have that conversation. So you need to have a conversation. Just don't talk about yourself. Make it all about them. Step four is building relationships. And you can't do this until you've engaged a couple of times. You can also do this by adding value. Okay, so there's many different ways to add value. It might be through custom content or other ways. And then step five is convert. And convert isn't convert to client. On LinkedIn, you're never going to convert them to a client. You need to convert to a conversation. You need to move that conversation offline, because it's offline you get to know them. It's offline you get to hear their problems and their frustrations and their desires. And it's offline that, if it makes sense, you could offer your solution. A connection request followed by a sales pitch happens way too much on LinkedIn, and it does not work. I'll never understand why people do this, because it absolutely doesn't work. I'm sure you guys have experienced this. You need to personalize everything, and do it by, finding commonality, showing interest in them, maybe referencing something that they've shared on LinkedIn or on their website or somewhere else, and complimenting. Complimenting is always a great way, because everybody loves compliments. All right. Well, that was a lot.
That was a lot indeed.
Yeah,
Thank you
that
very
was a lot. So if anybody wants a little bit more and to go deeper into any of the stuff I talked about today, like creating a professional profile, using the 5 steps, building authority, I do have a free short mini course video series on my website. You can go to topdogsocialmedia.com and get access to those videos.